Welcome to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Pfefferkorn, and this is the biggest and only fan run podcast of the East Tennessee State Buccaneers. We'll get right back to you after the tune. Welcome back to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. Tonight, I have a very special guest. Chris Timmerman. He was a member of the 90s ETSU basketball squads. And I will, without further ado, I'm going to introduce him here. And so go ahead and introduce yourself, Chris.
Sure. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was part of Coach LaForce's teams there in the mid 90s. Not fortunate enough to be on the ones that made the tourney runs, but right there after in his final years, and just had a great experience at ETSU, and certainly bonds I made up there, and the trips we had were memorable even 30 years ago.
Yeah, just I know I sort of did some research because I wasn't alive then. I know all the big names, and I know you didn't play as much, but you're still a part of those teams, you know. And I'm glad to have you on tonight. So
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
yeah.
Happy to be a part and with those guys. I'd like to say the Talfords and Dennis and Niblets I didn't play with, but they were always around the program. I actually roomed with Jason because he was finishing up school, his, I guess, fifth year, my first year. So we were roommates, and those guys would always come to practice and hang out. So it definitely showed you where your game was when you were competing with those guys on the heels of trying to make it to overseas, or with Calvin's case, Globetrotters. It was a fun experience for sure.
Because I know those 90s ETSU teams, they got recognized everywhere. I know I was talking to Brooke Savage. A lot of recruits' parents know the Bucks from those teams, you know. Calvin Talford being in the dunk contest and so on and so forth, you know, all those accolades they had. And
Without a doubt, I mean, that was when I was being recruited. Certainly could have gone somewhere smaller and played, but at the time, East Tennessee, as you know, was a top 40 program. I mean, the year that when Greg got hurt, they still were the 10 seed in '91. So it's at between 36 and 40 there, and would have been higher than that if they would have been healthy going into that tournament. And I think he even got as high as ranked top 10, like 10 or 11 that year. So they were definitely a formidable opponent to be on the big stage, not just the Southern Conference at that time.
Because I know I've seen that clip of like Dan Patrick talking about ETSU on ESPN, I think, back in the day. I think it's on YouTube still, but you kind of got into one of my next questions I was going to ask you, just sort of what brought you to ETSU as a player, and you kind of answered that, but we'll go into the full.
Yeah, just
the
where the program was. Sure. I mean, my junior year of high school, we were really I'm born and raised in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so about 6 hours. Well, before they had the road through the mountain pass, 7 hours to Johnson City. But just had met Coach Robinson, who obviously he left shortly thereafter to go to NC State. But Coach LaForce was obviously on his staff, and Coach Young, and just a great bunch of people at the time. Obviously, like I say, they were winning Southern Conference rings year after year, and it was a pretty easy decision to go there when was given the opportunity by Coach LaForce. So it was, say, my junior year of high school. I had the fortunate of being point guard and having two 6'11" twins, one right-handed, one left-handed. So it made it kind of easy to pad the assist numbers that year. Once those guys moved on, they ended up playing at Missouri after going to junior college, the Haley twins. So we were really strong the junior year, and then the senior year, I had to do more scoring and carry the load, but was obviously a solid player in high school, like an all-region type deal, but get to college, and like I say, you really see where you are when you go up against those guys day in and day out. And like you say, I didn't have the most playing time there, but at the same time, worked my tail off there every day with the guys, and
Mhm.
got my opportunities when I could. And like I say, I had some great trips, great memories from it, and wouldn't trade it for a thing. Happy to be. Wish we could have gotten a ring, clearly, but
Yeah, yeah,
in regards to the decision to go to Johnson City, it was an excellent one. I enjoyed every minute I was in Tennessee.
yeah. Just like you know, even when you're on a team like that, you know, you're going up against the best, you know, in practice every day. So a lot of times, even when the stats don't show it, you're putting in work. You know, like walk-ons put on a tremendous amount of work to
Oh
get
yeah, no,
get it. You
everybody's
know.
there doing the weightlifting at 5 a.m.
Hmm.
and conditioning at the time.
Hmm.
We'd be on the track running 220s, and it was
Hmm.
yeah, it was a lot of work, but at the same time, it was rewarding with the experiences we got and some of the I just everything, the bonds you make and all.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anywhere else you probably would have rather been than ETSU because it's just one of those, you know, it's one of those mid-major schools that just the environment is different, you know, and there's a fan base that supports them
Yeah,
and
at that
cares
time, I
about
mean,
y'all.
we were obviously certainly, yeah. I mean, back then, at least my freshman year, when we were on the heels of that big run,
Hmm.
I mean, the dome would regularly have 9, 10,000 people in there with great student support, and it was quite the environment, and obviously a great home court because of the fact
Hmm.
that it was so vast. It was kind of tough for other teams to come in and shoot in. I mean, like we, as you know, when they have the Final Four and
Yeah,
those big arenas, you see them struggle with shooting some, just because it's a unique experience. You're not a wall right behind the basket, so
yeah,
it was a good advantage for us because we, although we'd practice on the side court for the most part, we certainly would get our shots up in the dome and just kind of be used to it. So it was a fun experience for sure.
yeah. Because in the NCAA tournament, all the arenas they play at are, you know, big sports arenas, pretty much.
Yeah, at least
Like,
after the
yeah,
first round.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like after you have a few college arenas in there, but for the most part, it's just NBA and NFL stadiums. You know, like all
Right.
crazy, crazy arenas. But um, just I was going to sort of segue into that. What are some of your favorite moments at ETSU? Like just playing for
Sure.
ETSU basketball in general.
Yeah. I guess I'd be remiss first if I was at ETSU. I met my wife, so we've
Hmm.
been together now and married 24 years, and so got that from being in Johnson City, and while we've been in Florida for the last 25 years, we bonded there, and she's from Athens, Tennessee. So
Hmm.
that was obviously the biggest takeaway from there was finding a bride. But in regards to the basketball experience, just the entire thing. In our first trip that I was part of, my freshman year, we went to San Juan Shootout, played against Michigan State, Marquette, and I don't. There was a couple other teams there. I know Kelvin Sampson. I think we had Washington State there. So just, the trips that we had there, we went over there. I think that was during Thanksgiving, and I remember leaving Johnson City. We were all bundled up and got to San Juan, and we all had our coats on and shedded those, and had a week there on the beach and 3 games there. That was memorable, and many other good trips. We went to Lawrence, Kansas. So I got to see Fog Allen. Played in the Breslin Center right when it first opened at Michigan State. Um, just numerous trips like that we had great experiences flying, and then obviously the Southern Conference, just going on the bus trips and all to
Hmm.
Appalachian to Davidson to Western and all those short little trips. But just the fun rides over, or the serious rides over, and the fun rides back after the wins, playing cards and just talking trash. It was just good bonding time with the guys.
Hmm. Yeah, and you just mentioned that. Just like I'd say, every those trips, you remember those all the time. You know, just going back and looking at the memories, you just feel the environments like Fog Allen. You said that's probably one of the craziest arenas to play in the country. You know, I know ETSU played Kansas a few years back, Forbes last year.
Yep.
Um, so, in just like thinking about it, in the SoCon in that time, and there was a lot of talent, around the SoCon. So,
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it was not the year that I went to Kansas, but 3 years prior, I think we had Niblet and that team that went to the that beat Arizona went out to
yeah.
Kansas and they got down. I want to say it was 20-0, and ended up like they scored finally, and they got like a
Hmm.
Bronx cheer because they got on the board, and damn, they didn't end up coming back and losing that game by like 2 points and taking right to the wire. So we definitely had the talent at that time. I mean, beat NC State at back-to-back years. There was a game with Arizona that went right down to the wire before the tournament at their place. So yeah, it was certainly competitive. I mean, and you've seen even today. I mean, with Walford winning at Chapel Hill a couple years ago and won. Obviously, Furman last year going down to Orlando and
Yeah.
beating Virginia. So the Southern Conference is not often do we get a very good seed in the tournament, but we're certainly overlooked there because the teams that go always do compete.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, you have the ETSU teams, you have the Davidson Elite Eight team,
Yep.
those Wofford teams with Fletcher McGee, Furman last year. There's been quite a few teams that have been spoilers in the tournament. Um, and just thinking about like uh, all those games against the big time school, all those were the record attendance for ETSU at the mini dome, and it's just crazy that it got that big in the 90s. Like ETSU basketball got that big. Um,
Oh yeah, it was on the national map for sure.
yeah, yeah. I feel like we were back on that path before COVID wrecked everything, but hopefully we get back there soon.
Without a doubt. I mean, as you know, that
Yeah,
team won 30 ball games that year and should have been ranked top 25. There
yeah.
wouldn't have been some of the blue bloods
Hmm.
just hanging on and getting the votes that they shouldn't have gotten. But
Hmm.
even then, I believe we were, what, 27th, like second in others receiving votes.
Yeah.
So that would have gotten a probably a 6 or a 7, 8 seed at worst that year,
Hmm.
which, as you well know from what happened in last year's tournament with 9 seeds going to the final game. That team is certainly capable of making a deep run. It's a shame they didn't get their opportunity.
I personally believe that they would have made the Sweet 16 at least had they stayed in. You know,
Yeah,
just with how
without a doubt.
their team chemistry was. They were just playing. Everyone knew their roles, and that's the best teams. Teams that play cohesively.
Yeah, that team never gave up in that Western Carolina game, the last game of the year. They were dead in the water, but they just had a lot of heart, and I would have loved to have seen them make that tourney run because, like you said, they certainly would have been favored the first game, and they would have been playing a who knows a 3 seed or so the second,
Yeah,
and would have been matched up well, I'm sure.
I think they were projected an 11 seed in the tourney before it got canceled. And they were
Yeah.
projected as playing Iowa or Penn State. That's what I remember. I remember that. Just
And it
because.
could have been. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that we were right on the cusp of top
Hmm.
25, which clearly was
Hmm.
would have showed as a what four brackets there, which
Hmm.
should have been 7 seed at worst. But we've always never Southern Conference has never gotten the respect it's due in the tournament.
Yeah, yeah. That's because
But,
there's several times the top team that made it to the tourney, they get put at like a 14 seed or something like that,
yeah, I think
and
that's what Furman was either a 13 or 14 last year,
yeah.
and they had what a 31 season or right at.
Hmm. Hmm. I knew that Virginia team wasn't as good as their seed and what. They struggled against some other teams throughout the year, like James Madison, some others. They were kind of questionable, but um,
Yeah, they had enough height.
yeah,
I thought they
yeah,
might be able
yeah.
to hold them off, but Furman
Hmm.
played scrappy that day and hit the shots when they needed to.
Hmm. That I was watching that game live, and I went nuts when they hit the buzzer beater. because I was like, oh, just wow, wow. That's one of those games you're like, wow,
Yeah, it
makes you
was
go,
fun.
wow.
We were actually there because Orlando's only 2 hours from here, and it was a great. And yeah, that was the first game of the tournament too. Like that kicked the thing off, so you knew we were in for a wild ride, and got even
Hmm.
crazier.
Hmm. Um, I just wanted to, you know, sort of. Do you have any other memories, even as a fan, like as you've transitioned from a player to a fan, that you remember fondly?
I mean, obviously, I follow them as much as
Hmm.
possible. I mean, I'm like I say, I'm in Florida now, so I'm 10 hours away, and I heavily involved in my daughter's basketball. I coach
Yeah.
her high school team, and my other daughter's in middle school, and she's on her team. So, in regards to getting up there and actually being able to go watch many ball games or any ball games for that matter, it's not possible. But
Hmm.
anytime I can pull it up on ESPN Plus or whatever, I
Yeah.
certainly do watch. I did have the luxury while I wasn't a fan that we were in the Atlantic Sun. It was a good thing for us because my wife and I were able to go when they play. Jacksonville and UNF are still in the Atlantic Sun, and we would come down and do like a Friday Sunday type thing. So when Coach Bartow was here, team would be here for 3 days, and then they would play Friday, destroy UNF, and then generally we'd go play golf or just whatever, hang out with Jay Santos, the voice of the Bucks, and
Hmm.
so it was nice. I was able to spend some time with him every year in that regard, but at the same time, it didn't feel right being in that league. We
Yeah.
belong in the Southern. I was glad to see us get back in the Southern, but so was able to catch a bunch of ball games though for that stretch of 7 or 8 years while they came down here. So that was it was always good to catch up with the guys around the program, but at the same time, was very happy to see us get back in the league that we should be with the natural
Hmm.
rivals.
I mean, that excited me when I was that age. I know I grew up. I first started watching ETSU. That's who ETSU was playing. Um, of course, I hated Belmont, playing Belmont every game, every time. But I'm glad we made it back to the SoCon and playing Chattanooga and Western and all the natural rivals we have around here. Um, and I'm glad you have said that. I just love being back in the SoCon. You know, where there's
Yep, and then this year we even have a couple of games. We had Appy and Davidson, so
yeah,
it's even
yeah.
going back to our roots there, the '90s when we had those guys in the league. So it's I like to see those matchups because that Appalachian game used to
Mhm.
be Chattanooga was always the one we wanted the most. That was the battle, but at the same time, Appy being across the mountain and they had some studs back in the early '90s too. So that game became very intense, and they played at that time. They played in a little dumpy gym, so it was loud, and the students were right on the court, and it was a tough environment, but that was a good rival to have.
I know they've played App State a few times the last few years, and all those games are drag physical games. I know when it was Forbes last year, I think we beat them in a close game. And then 2 years ago we went there. I was at that game. We lost that unfortunately, and then I think we're doing another home and home with them.
Yeah, I know
I
we
think we
play them
play.
sometime around
Yeah, yeah,
Thanksgiving. I believe
yeah,
they're
yeah.
yeah.
Because we played them at our place last year, and then we play them
Yeah.
in Boone this year. And that Davidson game's big. That's probably the biggest non-conference game ETSU's had at home since probably
Yeah,
UT, honestly.
to get that at home would be great. Yeah, that
Yeah,
one, and
yeah,
then going to Butler and getting to play at the
yeah, yeah.
Hoosiers Arena, that'll be cool.
At Hinkle Field House,
Yep.
classic arena. I know I had a question about the schedule, just what games you were looking forward to, and you kind of answered that already. But you know,
Yeah, I would say those
yeah,
three for the
yeah,
non-conference
yeah.
certainly. At Butler will be a good test to start us off, and then the two old SoCon rivals will be a good barometer too. I think to kick off the season. Hey, I think the schedule's favorable. I like the way they've got it set up with a lot of these new guys in there that
Mhm.
they should be able to have some wins and be able to get some good experience for the team and bench players as well, to get going into the conference season. But at the same time, it's not all cupcakes. There's some good challenges that'll going to test us going into the conference play, which we'll need because clearly our conference is still very strong, at least like 1 to 8. I wouldn't say the military schools are there, but anybody else can beat anybody on a given night.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, just like a lot of mid majors, a lot of strong mid majors on the road. Um, that helps us for conference play because every game in the SoCon is going to be a defensive battle, pretty much. That's how it's been in the last several years, other than BMI, of course, and
Right. Right.
Citadel. But they're a bit different. They have other obligations than basketball to take care of. But um, like it's just the way the schedule's set up. It's probably the best schedule I've seen in a few years for from an ETSU perspective because um, lots of mid majors, not too many low majors, other than the D2 games, which that Brooks Savage said since Delaware backed out, they had to schedule Tusculum. So um,
Yeah.
I think it's a really well-rounded schedule. And I was kind of going to use this to transition into talking about uh, the team this year. What are your thoughts on the team this year and sort of the roster and who are some of your players you're looking forward to watching out on the court this year?
Yeah. No, first I'll say, I mean, I'm super excited Coach Savage is back.
Hmm.
I hate that things didn't work out with Coach Shea and the way that whole debacle went down. But and then just I don't know what happened the last 2 years, but I'm glad we
Yeah,
went ahead and
I don't.
ripped that Band-Aid and got on back to where we had some coaches hit 130 games over five
Yeah.
years, and he was right there and was a big part of it with the recruiting at that time, and certainly is a right on top of things with Coach Forbes, and so super excited right there. I think change needed to be made for the program, for the fan base, and um, it's great to have him at the helm. I've had a couple of conversations with him, and I mean, I know you just had him on the pod.
Hmm.
Very energetic, very excited to be back in Johnson City, and with the knowledge he has, with the connections he has, with everything there, he's going to bring in studs and be able to compete. It's hard right now with this NIL. I mean, you get these
Hmm.
studs, and you're lucky to try to hold on to them for a year or for 2 years. But I definitely think he's going to bring the winning attitude back. I know it was just an exhibition game the other night, but you just saw the electricity from everything just on the bench. I mean, you just noticed that the locker room's locked in and engaged, and I haven't seen that the last, at least the last year. So I think that we may take some lumps this year in conference. I'm optimistic that where they have us at sixth or seventh, I definitely think that we can outperform that. But like I say, everybody in that league, at least from 1 to 8, is strong, and we're going to have to gel, and we'll be we have certainly a chance. And then, as you know, you just need to get hot in Nashville for 3 days, and that's really the only thing that can matter in the Southern Conference is win that tournament. So
Yeah.
I think we have the horses to do so. We definitely have the coaches staff to do so. In regards to the players, I mean, we have the one senior we got from Delaware, the guard. So he's going to have this team hopefully entirely back
Hmm.
next year. So to have these guys working together and, like you say, coming together and gelling, it's going to be a great thing. The one kid I know about a little bit because he's from Jacksonville, or at least he's been playing here. Jaden Parker. He's got good wingspan, runs the court. He was here at UNF. I was very excited to see we were able to pluck him from Driscoll down here, and just saw some of the highlights and everything of the first game, and watched a little bit of the clip when they were doing the SoCon days there. And they had Jaden Seymour there. He seems like just a very bright and energetic kid, and looks like he's going to be one of the studs this year for us. And just excited to watch and see what they can do. And I mean, like I say, I'm optimistic this year, but at the same time, I'm realistic in the fact of what we're coming off a 12-win season. But with what he's built and the culture that he's establishing back again, trying to get some of the older guys engaged and just have everybody rallying around the program is very good to see right now as a former athlete there.
I know you sort of mentioned it. Like, this team has an identity. Like watching them against UVA-wise, like last year, that team didn't have that identity. They didn't really have an offense. They didn't really have an offense, or like they didn't run normal sets um, necessarily. And I think this year, they know what they're going to do. They have bought into what Savage is, you know, his coaching style. Um, and like you said, it's going to be sort of a development or take a minute for him to gel. Think that it's going to take, figure out who's got needs going to get the ball at the end of games and stuff like that. Who's going to be the primary ball handler. Um, but I think that the team has the one big thing, just physicality.
Hmm.
They were very physical. Like Jaden Parker, you got Jaden Parker and Jaden Seymour. That's going to be the tandem to beat inside. I will say defensively and offensively because they are just physical. They've got hit or have been in the weight room all off season, and even the younger guys are showing sparks. Uh, Gabe Sisk, uh, Makai Johnson, and Braden Illick. They were shooting the lights out against UVA Wise.
Yeah, 18 threes. That would have been a record.
Yeah.
As many threes as our schools hit, that would have trumped it if it would have been a real game.
Yep. Yep. I know. I think Quimari Peterson might be him or Jaden Seymour will probably be leading scorer this year based on just their how they moved it during the game. But do you have any predictions for this year? Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely
who's
optimistic. Like I
scoring?
say, I think we could certainly fall anywhere. I would say from 1 to 7 in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not as pessimistic as how these media guys are with us, but at the same time, I mean, there's Furman's got a lot back. I mean, heck, Walford just destroyed South Carolina tonight, which I
Yeah. I
don't think
saw
South
that.
Carolina's very good, but Walford still they keep churning. You've got, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, UTC is back to being UTC where they weren't for like the last decade.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like I said, as much as I want to see us finish one in the regular season, I mean, as you well know, what matters is this 3 days in Nashville. So
Hmm.
hopefully we can get hot there, peak toward the end of the year, and get hot in Nashville and make a run and get in the tourney. Like to see us back in the big dance, and I know it's going to happen with this coaching staff. It's just if it happens this year, it's would be a bonus, big bonus.
Yeah, because even Forbes didn't make it in his first year. It's just tough to make it
Oh,
as a first year coach in a
very, very
mid-major
much.
conference.
I mean, if you
Because
look even back historically when I was in high school, Robinson, his first 3 years, he won 34 games total. And I mean, obviously, he's in the ETSU Hall of Fame now, but if you win 34 games in 3 years now, you're run. I mean, like, there's
yeah,
not
you're
that kind
gone.
of time. Fortunately, he was able to get board of trustees or whatever to follow to I mean know that he had these guys coming in. He had Mr. Jennings, he had Greg Dennis, he had these guys coming, and then obviously turned the program around and
Hmm.
had several couple 20-win seasons before he bolted for NC State and Coach DeForest took on. But it does take time. I mean, this is our fourth coach in 5 years.
Yeah,
So it's now none of these guys have been under four different systems because they're younger, but at the
four.
same time, four different schemes and four different platforms is it's a lot over a 5 year period. But I do think that the locker room has the leadership and all that it needs this year, and these guys are going to come together. It should be a good season.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the leadership they've had after all the changes um, over the last 2 or 3 years in the program. Because there's been so many transfers in and out. Um, it's probably been hard to find consistency.
And that's the thing
Coaching,
right now
yeah,
in the mid majors. It's so difficult right now to, and you've got to do that with the transfers and the portals. I mean, it's not like it was back in my day. I mean, you get a Mr. Jennings, and he was happy to be there, and you had 4
yeah,
years from him, and Calvin Talford and all those guys. Honestly, now if Mr. Jennings was playing, a guy of his caliber, he's going to get tapped by Tennessee and get this big money. And it's hard to turn down as a 19, 20-year-old kid. It's almost gotten out of control. I mean, that Wong kid from Miami last year, like basically just said, I'll come back if you guys give me $5 million. I mean, it's not the, we were happy back in the day to get a Pal's burger and get a haircut from Don, and that was our NIL. Like I mean, that was it was not anything to the degree of how competitive it is this day to compete, especially at this mid-major level. I mean, the Georgia Southern coach was there for 3 years. He won 17 ball games last year, Georgia Southern, which is a Conference USA, a decent league, and got run, and it's just it's tough. So I empathize for these coaches that do have to deal with the you're having to recruit not only I mean annually or you're on it daily just to make sure that you've got. I'm sure we're worried about our guys being tapped, and you're worried about looking for Division II guys that you can have move up to your level. Um, and that wasn't the case. You used to get a guy, and he was there on campus for 4 years.
yeah. I mean, it's even a problem at the Power Five level because like schools that don't have like a super deep NIL fund, they get losing out to like Miami and Arizona and whoever else that has like deep pockets. Um, you mentioned Isaiah
Exactly.
Wong at Miami. Nigel Pack at transferred from he was at Kansas State and Purdue was in on him, but he went to Miami because they gave him six figures in the as a
That's
transfer. Yeah,
it's out of control
it's
right
crazy.
now. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
is
how they're going to
crazy.
rein that back in, but it definitely makes it harder at our level to keep a continuity.
I know because a mid major, unless your coach is there, the players are just going to go immediately. You know, if you don't have a leader that talks to the players, and even then they take off
Sure.
sometimes.
I mean, it's a
But,
it's a different culture now for sure. So it
mhm,
makes, like I say, I empathize with Coach Savage for
yeah,
how he's got to recruit like this. But I think he did a very good job with when he came in. I guess that was March, and he got right on it. And like I say, I know he was down here, got Jaden Parker, and he got enough. I mean, but he brought in 5 or 6 out of the portal, as well as doing a good job of late signing these freshmen that we have that hopefully will be an impact. So, um, like I say, this now that he's there and he's got his roots established, I expect that to be continuous. But he was dealt a tough hand there with as late as he got in and how everybody early commits and all.
yeah. I think he did. He found his guys immediately and got them signed up. I think Jaden Parker was the first commit after he got hired. I
I believe
think.
so.
I think so. 'Cause I remember when he committed, I was pretty happy with that because we've needed a defensive big the past couple years, um, and he fits that mold pretty well. I think that I think that about covers the team this year. Um, we opened against King on Monday. Uh, that should be an easy victory.
Would
Uh,
certainly hope to be similar to what
yeah,
we had last week
yeah,
with the
yeah.
exhibition. Get everybody some playing time and some, get the fans leaving there happy and get get off to a good start. So it's always good to have a few games like that, just
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
kick off. Like I say, my first one was in a tournament against Sean Respert, so it was
Hmm.
um, we didn't have the luxury of kind of easing in. We were thrown right into the fire that year, and but at the same time, it was good to have that type of game to then be ready to compete in conference, which we have those
Hmm.
this year. It's just not right in the beginning. So it'll be nice to get off to a couple of wins, and then, like I say, see what we can do up in Indianapolis. If they can go in there and compete, that would be a great telltale of where the program is right now.
Because Butler's kind of in a rebuild mode too, so we'll see how how we stack up against a lower tier Big East team.
Yeah,
Um, since Butler's Big
in a
East
tough
now.
environment. I mean, they'll have
Hmm.
well, that's what, November 13th. So students will be there. It'll be a rocking place that
Hmm.
early in the year.
Um, I think that's yeah. It's going to be a tough environment all around. I just kind of wanted to pivot back around as we get ready to close the show. I just wanted to ask how you stayed connected with the ETSU community through the years. You kind of already answered that, but just sort of how do you stay connected with what you do now down in Florida with coaching and all the other stuff you're into?
Sure. Yeah. No, I obviously don't have many contacts within the program anymore since
Hmm.
those guys have moved on. But like I say, Jay, the voice of the Bucks, we stay in constant communication during the season. Kevin Brown, the sports information director,
Hmm.
occasionally we'll send each other some nuggets back and forth. Uh, Obviously, I donate when I can to causes there. Uh, I have not been up to a basketball game, a home game, but I have been able to take my daughters up to Mercer, and we made another trip. They played at Savannah State a couple years ago, so when they're in the vicinity where I can make it, I'll go. But we were able to get up to a football game, see the stadium, and see the facilities there, and was able to at least show the girls the dome and all then. So I wish I could spend more time there. Like I say, it's just the timing of the season with our seasons makes it extremely difficult. But without a doubt, I'm very connected to trying to at least listen to all the games that I can and or pick them up on ESPN Plus and um, have just great memories there. And like I say, I think
Hmm.
Coach Savage, he kind of reached out. Jay had him reach out right away. So I told him if there's anything I can do down in this area to help, I'm happy to do so. Um, and they have a good alumni faculty too. I've talked a
Hmm.
couple times to Desmond Pierce, just about possible events and all they'll do down here. But there's just not a lot of large presence here in Jacksonville. So I haven't been able to do a ton because we haven't played any games down here since we got out of the Atlantic Sun. But like I say, I still try to stay as connected and as in tune as I can, and always rooting for the
Hmm.
program and like even the golf team. That has been a phenomenal story. They're ranked top 10 in the country right now. What they've done for the last ever since I was there in '95. They finished third in the nation. I beat Tiger Woods' Stanford team that year, and how Coach Warren kept that program just going strong and turned it over to Jake Amos, and he's been just killing it. I mean, that's a phenomenal story. I mean, that that golf team's competing with Oklahoma State and Texas and all the big boys year in and year out. So it's good to see them. I've seen them come down. They played a couple of events down this way, so I've been able to go out and support them some. So that's been good. And um, so, like I say, anything I can do to help East Tennessee, I'm always willing to do so because it's has a special place in my heart. And like I say, with my wife being from there too, it makes it easier to support because she's got the full backing of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I agree because I went graduated from ETSU, so it's always gonna have a special place, even if I move away. But yeah, like you said, the golf program, that's a crazy story. Just like the amount of pro golfers that have come out of ETSU is astounding for the size of program we are. Um, Especially when you have more coastal elite teams where there's more big time golf courses and programs for that sort of thing. It's crazy. Rory McIlroy almost came to ETSU.
Yeah,
Um,
no, he signed a letter of intent
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Coach Warren had the
And
letter in his office that Rory signed was coming. Uh,
Yeah.
he Keith Nolan, I think, was helping him at the time, and he's from Ireland, and he had got him linked up. I guess his caddy,
Hmm.
not now, not the Roy Diamond guy, but the other fella, JP, somebody. He went to ETSU, so there was a
Hmm.
connection there that Rory had, and then also with Keith, the Irish connection. And yeah, that would have been quite remarkable to have him. But I think he made the right decision.
Yeah,
Hard
he
to
pay.
question.
Yeah, it's kind of like LeBron James going straight pro.
Right.
You don't question it. It just sort of everything is meant to be with that sort of stuff like that. Um, I was gonna say, is there anything else you wanted to plug here at the end of the episode? Just any anything you want to shout out or anything like that?
No, I just want to wish the guys the best of luck this season, and
Hmm.
hopefully we'll be seeing them cutting down the nets here in the first week of March. And I'll make sure I'm at the regional wherever they end up in second week or third week of March.
Yeah. One more quick thing. I remembered ETSU played at Orlando in 2017. Did you make it to that by
Oh
chance?
yeah, no, we were right there.
Yeah.
We stayed at
Okay.
the
Okay.
DoubleTree with the team and
Uh,
went to the Florida game and had them tied up at the half and just couldn't
mhm.
make the shots the second half. But yeah, it was great to have them down here playing in the dance.
I
I
know.
was able to pick the girls too, so that was a nice thing as a former athlete to be able to because we always do our brackets and all the girls and I and
Mhm.
so to actually have East Tennessee in there and to be able to see them play in that environment was great.
I know. I would have gone if I was a little bit older because I was just a high school kid then, so I didn't have the money to go down. I mean, I wanted to go to the regional in 2020, but before all that happened. But next time, wherever
Yeah, yeah,
ETSU
we'll meet
plays
up
at,
in 23. How's
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. But I thank you for coming on the show tonight, and I appreciate you for taking time out of your uh, busy schedule to come on here. Um, I appreciate it, and just let anyone else that wants to come on, let them know that I'm down to have anybody on at any time. And if you want to come back, you can always come back on. Um,
Well, thank you
but
for what you're doing and
mhm,
spreading the love for East Tennessee. It's definitely everybody's proud of the work you're doing, and
mhm,
it's like I say right now, the community needs to rally around this team, and we have the right leadership in place to get this done. And there may be a little bit of growing pains, but bear with it because we have the right folks there now. So it's I don't know, we're gonna have another 130 win 5 year stretch because that's
mhm.
unprecedented, but without a doubt, these guys are gonna right the ship and have this thing going good here very soon.
I know I'm passionate about making this. I actually had someone I didn't recognize uh, point me out for my podcast. I was like, "Thank you." I was like, it was just crazy, but I'm glad to just spread the love of ETSU, the ETSU community, and um, yeah, I hope we get back to that. Where the community rallies behind the team. Um,
Well, I'm still supporting here in Florida. I
yeah,
got my flag up,
yeah, yeah,
got my jersey. This is my sports room I'm in, so
yeah.
got a lot of old memorabilia with balls from Kansas and have various things, a bunch of
Hmm.
programs. So I, like I say, I'm always on board, and anything I can do to help anything like what you're doing and or
Yeah.
with the team, I'm happy to
Hmm.
assist.
I know I've dug some old sports programs out the other day. It was like it had Forbes on the cover from a few years back. Just rediscovered it, but um, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you for coming on the podcast. And I guess that's Godspeed and go Bucks.
Go
And
Bucks!
good night, y'all. Enjoy your night.